Okay, we will be providing a witness later. Is that all right? I'm sorry it wasn't in the bundle, but we do have a surprise witness who will be turning up.
I don't know if that can be allowed.
Well, it's evidence, so it's part of...
It's evidence. Okay.
Yes, yes.
So all I can say as the prosecutor is she can bring on a witness, and I'm just going to go forward with the case against Delilah. So we'll hear from the defendants later. Delilah, who is in the dock today. If you look at that woman, she's beautiful, dressed in the best Armani, best clothes, best everything. Her name means delicate or dainty. But I'm telling you today, there's nothing delicate or dainty about Delilah. Delilah is a woman of the night, we'll just say that. She's of unholy persistence and a devilish, she's deceitful. You'll find out that this woman, she has personal charms and she used her mental ability. She has self-command and she has, listen, this woman is just full of a nerve that you wouldn't understand. Delilah used all of her qualities for one purpose, for sex and money, and guess what? She lied. She deluded Samson into believing she really loved him. Delilah sold him into blindness. She sold him into bondage and death. Just look at this woman. She's beautiful. There's so much that she could have done with her life, but as a Philistine, they really hated the Israelites. The ease with which she betrayed him revealed he's the enemy of God and God's people. She even kept the police in her bedroom so that they were very close when she believed that Samson had told her why he had great strength. This woman really wanted to get this man into trouble. She finally used all of her weapons. Daily, when she realized that he lied to her 3 times, daily she just got underneath his skin. We don't know what else she might have withheld from him, but then Samson gave in to this woman and he was caught and he died. So that's what my case against Delilah. Delilah was persuasive, she was deceitful, she was devilish, she knew exactly what she was doing, so she's guilty my lord. And that is the case for the prosecution tonight. Over to you, defender.
Thank you, my learned friend. My learned friend has stated some things that are not true, and there is no evidence for some of the things that you've stated. First of all, my client is no lady of the night. If you look in Judges, you will see she was minding her own business. She does not belong to the same tribe as Samson. She's a Philistine. And as a Philistine, she doesn't have to live by the code that the Nazarites live by. So that's one of the key things that I need you to understand. Stop thinking that she lived by their code. She didn't. She lived by the code of the Philistines. When you called her a prostitute, she is no. Samson left out of the bed of a prostitute to go home. And on his way home, he saw her. She was minding her own business. She wasn't interfering with him. He brought up as a Nazarite, and you have to understand that when he was brought up in a particular way of life, he should never have even been looking at my client, because he was brought up with strict Nazarite rule. What are you doing messing with a Philistine? My learned colleague accuses my client of being deceitful. She wasn't. She was loyal to her Philistine family. She belongs to the Philistine group. She was loyal to them. Have a look at what Samson did. Samson had killed over 1,000 of her brothers, her sisters, her relatives, her colleagues, her friends. He had killed the Philistine. And each time they had tried to find out what his strength lay, because you, Samson, you're a joker. You like games. You like fun. You like riddles. You're not a man that is in control. Because you like to mess and play around, and you'll have a look, I will show you evidence. You thought that because you had great strength, that everything lay in your strength. Yes, my client is a beautiful woman. She's stunning to look at, but she's cleverer than Samson. Just because she's clever doesn't make her deceitful or a liar. There is nowhere in the scripture that it says Delilah loved Samson. It's not in there. But the scripture says Samson loved Delilah. Now, if somebody loves you, doesn't mean that you're on their side. You've got another agenda. You are loyal to your own people. So let me just give you a little bit of a scenario concerning my client. We all look at the attributes of the Proverbs 31 woman. And it says that the Proverbs 31 woman is a businesswoman, that she knows how to take care of her family. She knows how to look after those that are around her. There are many attributes that are in Proverbs 31. My client is a businesswoman. She was not open to bribery. They came, they were killing her people. They said, you do a job, we'll pay you to do this job. So she used the charms that she had, her beautiful face, her figure, whatever it is that she used them in order to deliver her job. And you may say, well, she was paid as a prostitute. Well, you go to work, you do a job every day for somebody. Are you a prostitute? No, you are getting paid to do your job. Added to that, Delilah was a project manager because she was given this assignment. She is being paid for it. She was somebody who stayed with the job and delivered according to the instructions and the details of the job description. She really had done everything. She didn't betray Samson because she didn't declare any loyalty to him. If she had discovered the secret of his strength and not told the Philistines, she would have betrayed them. So please don't think she has any loyalty to Samson as a Nazarite. Couple of other little things that I want to bring into you is that where the scripture speaks about being unequally yoked, before Samson was born, there were clear instructions on how he was to be raised, how he was to be brought up within the Lord. The mother, father did exactly the instructions they were given and raised him. But as soon as Samson left their house, the instructions that they had given him seemed to disappear out of his head. And what made it worse, and this cannot be my client's fault, as soon as he saw this woman, he just stopped thinking with his head and started to think with something else. That is not my client's fault. The other thing is, I would say that my client is a great spy. She's a great spy. She also knows how to keep secrets. Now, we must not castigate her because she's clever. She asked Samson 3 times, what is the secret of your strength? He told her a lie. 3 of the times he lied to her. So if we're going to call anybody a liar, let's start with Samson. He lied to her. You, Samson, having lied to her and exactly what you told her, if you do this, I will lose my strength. She called the police on you, as my learned colleague has alluded to. Now, you should have twigged and said, oh, there's something not quite right here, because if I've told her, she's now tied me up. What's going on? You wasn't smart. Not only did you do it once, you did it again. Now, what's going on in your head? Are you somebody who is living up to that which has been put upon you? You haven't. And there is a very famous saying that says, hurt me once, shame on you. Hurt me twice, shame on me. You, Samson, you are either somebody who likes games, you like fun. So of course, the third time she asks you again, and you lie, and the police come in, and it turns out that it's not true. This woman now has to take her whole situation to another level. So she uses the gifts that she has within her. And she may very well have said, well, if you're coming back here, you ain't getting no things with me. I ain't playing with you. I'm not your friend. And then she started with the nagging. And nagging is an attribute that she used to great success. Now, please, before I finish, I want you to forget the film Samson and Delilah. That is all Hollywood nonsense. It's all nonsense because it portrays as if they are in love and whatever. The word doesn't say that. This woman had no obligation to behave in the same way as the tribe of the Nazarites. Her people were being killed, and she couldn't stand by and just say, no, but I'm going to do this job and I'm get it. So if we're going to talk about her being disloyal, she wasn't disloyal to her tribe. She didn't betray her tribe. I rest my case.
Thank you, Defender. I'm going to take this to the prosecutor. First of all, do you agree that the film should be removed from evidence?
I agree that the film should be removed as from the evidence, yes.
Thank you.
But also, I would like to say that in Judges 16, verse 5, it says that Delilah enticed. And what does entice mean? Entice means that she attracted him and she tempted him by offering pleasure. So if you're offering pleasure, you might as well say that you're a prostitute, because if she is doing what you want to do for the Philistines and getting paid for it, she is giving herself away, and that is not an attribute at all of a Proverbs 31 woman. Also, they both lie to one another. So why should he get his eyes gouged out and he be as a slave just because he loved this woman? But Samson loved her, and she was going by the Philistine code. And just because Samson was physically strong but morally weak, although he was able to rend a lion, he could not fight the lust. What I'm saying is Samson was weak, and Delilah used him as a prostitute, not a Proverbs 31 woman, because she knew what she was getting paid and what she wanted from him.
My client is no prostitute. There is no evidence for that. There is no evidence for you to label her, because this would mean that every woman who works, every woman who turns up at 9 to 5 and gets her money at the end of the day, regardless of, every woman would then be classed as a prostitute. And I really must object.
Right. I object to that as well, because when you go to work as a woman, you're not going to entice. So that is two different things. And that is where I draw the line. We are seen in here, and the words are written quite plainly. And when she came in, we said that she enticed, and that is why she's in the dock today. So I disagree. Other women that go to work, they do not go to entice, to tempt, by offering pleasure. So that is where I draw the line and disagree with you, my learned friend.
Right, order in the courtroom now, order. So before we introduce our witness, I'm going to open up the floor for questions. If you could raise your hand, because I can see a lot of interest here. So,
Your Honor, please,
yes.
I respond to my learned colleague's situation around the word entice.
Okay.
Yes.
Because people who are saleswomen and salesmen entice you to buy their perfumes, to buy their cars. People who sell you a house entice you to buy your house. Are those people prostitutes? You buy a house for pleasure. You buy new shoes, your Louis Vuitton, you are enticed to buy them, and you buy them based on what? Does that make that person who's selling you the shoes a prostitute? No. Enticing people to buy things is not wrong.
Okay.
Enticing people to buy things is not wrong, but using them for your pleasure is wrong. And that is what she did that was wrong.
Okay, I hope everyone's taken on board that argument, because they're two strong points. So, Beverly, please.
Yes. My question is for the prosecutor. You just say that Delilah enticed Samson.
Yes.
Nowhere in the Bible, unless my Bible is completely wrong. I've just read it, and it doesn't say she enticed him. It says that he fell in love with her.
All right, then Judges 16.
Entice him.
No, Judges 16 verse 5 in my Bible tells me, here is my Bible, 16 verse 5, and it tells me that, and the lords of the Philistine came up unto her and said unto her, entice him. And
my Bible says, can you lure him? It doesn't say entice him.
Yes, and that's what she went and she did. She enticed him.
No, she didn't. She lured him. She didn't entice him.
Okay.
All right, then carry on.
If you have your Bibles, if you turn to 16:5, but we'll move on. Do we have any more questions? Yes, please. Yvonne.
Yes.
Yvonne?
My Bible is the open Bible. My Bible is the open Bible. And Judges 16 verse 5 is telling me that the leaders of the Philistines went to her and said, find out from Samson what makes him so strong and how he can be overpowered and tied up securely. So what I'm saying, as a woman, if the leaders come to you, because remember, Delilah is not an Israelite. She is from the Philistine clan. And if the leader can come to you and say that to you, remember, just as you said, there's nowhere where Delilah really loved Samson. It was Samson who said that he loved her. It was Samson who said that he loved this girl. Even mother and father was saying to Samson, Samson, I don't think you should really go in the Philistine clan for that. He said, no, get this woman for me. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So it's like the leaders probably could see that Samson loved this woman, but Delilah didn't love him.
No.
She loved the, I think Delilah
loved the money.
Loves her people. Delilah loves her people.
Right. Yes. Anybody else have any points to raise? Maxine? Yes?
It was quoted, Samson was morally weak. And I think that's a key point to remember, discussion of blaming Delilah for what happened to him. Being morally weak is a detriment to himself and has to stand some of for his outcome. Expensive.
Sorry, we missed quite a bit of that, what you were just saying. It cut in and out.
Well, what you were saying is that he was morally weak, and you can't blame Delilah if he was morally weak. Isn't that what you were saying, Maxine?
Yes, pretty much. And so therefore, he has to stand some of the consequences for the outcome of what happened to him.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Those of you without, oh, hello, Sister Angelica. Let Faith first, and then to you, Sister Angelica. Okay.
That's fine.
For me? You need to unmute. That's it.
Okay. Hello, Sister Angelica. Welcome. You know, I'm wondering, well, I read this story quite a few chapters going back before Samson's birth, coming right down to the eventual end of his life.
Mm.
And I know the story all my life, but reading it all over again revealed certain things that I find I take note of at this time of my life, which I didn't take note of when I was young or earlier. I have to say, I did blame, or I was siding with the evidence against Delilah. But when I started at the very beginning of the story, something which grabbed me and has held me with this story is the fact that all of this was God's plan. That got me. Samson was the man that he was. His heart just grabbed her, and he didn't care what anybody says. I think the way Samson behaved, if right at the beginning they said, you will die if you go with that woman, he wouldn't have paid any notice, because his heart was so fixed on her that the consequences of that love was exactly what happened. So that is what I have to say at this point.
Okay. Angie?
A man loves a woman.
Sorry.
Oh my word. Even though we can recognize that Samson loved this woman, and because of that, he felt weak for her in terms of that, it is not giving Delilah any kind of justification to play on his weakness. Also, from the beginning, she knew exactly what the Philistines wanted, and she was bribed with money. And with that in mind, she continued with the enticement, or she went ahead with the enticement that she was asked to do. And even when he deceived her by not telling her where his strength lied, she did not stop. She continued. So I think it was a premeditated type of being an accomplice to his murder. I also think that the bribe that she got was something that she really wanted, so she did not pull it out. In that, I don't think his allegiance to our Philistine clan was the primary thing. I more think it was the money that he would have had, because she wasn't really fighting for her clan. She was more, into what they would have given to her. That's what I think. Based on the scripture, brought that out and showed that, because each time they came to her, they highlighted that aspect of the incentive that she would have had. Right. So with that in mind, I clearly see she was a betrayer. She was an accomplice to his murder. Treachery was a big part of it. She continued with what she had to do because she was premeditating whatever the situation ended up with.
Right.
I must disagree with you, completely disagree with you, in that just because you are paid to do a job doesn't mean it's bribery. They paid her to carry out an assignment. Now, whatever charms, whatever her figure, her face, however she knew how to stroke his head, she knew how to feel his face. The one thing that you have to say about Delilah is that she knew how to get to her man. She knew which part of him to rub. So she may have given him the best neck massage, That woman earned her pay. So we must be very careful, very, very careful that we accuse her of treachery. She had no loyalty to Samson. Where does it say she had loyalty to him? It doesn't. It doesn't say so. But she was a Philistine and loyal to her people, not to his. So there are some...
Sorry.
Right. what I've got to say is
In
that
the interest, of
the
getting
money
that
that,
treachery in, oh, I'm sorry.
oh, does somebody else want to speak?
That
What
was
I was going to say is that,
Oh, it's the first that thought.
we can't hear you, Sister Angelica.
Okay,
oh,
I
sorry,
was
go on.
trying to identify the verse that highlights the treachery. It's verse 9. No, there were men lying in wait, abiding with her in the chamber, with her, abiding with her in the chamber. And she said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson, and he break the whatever it was. Like in that part of the verse, no, there were men lying in wait, abiding with her in the
Okay.
chamber.
What Sister Angelica is saying is
That
in
was
Judges
treacherous.
16 verse 9, what I said before, that she had the men lying awake, the policemen lying awake in her bedroom. So she knew exactly what she was doing. And what Angelica was reading was, now there were men lying in wait, abiding with her in the chamber. So that although she was loyal to the Philistines, she was getting paid for what she was doing, and the monetary value was more important to her than the actual being loyal to the Philistines. No, she was not loyal to Samson. Samson is the one that loved her, but she had them lying in wait. She used her womanly wiles. She didn't care who was around. She didn't care who heard her, what she had to do. She knew what she wanted, what the money that she was going to get, because it's even more money than Judas got. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she used all her womanly wiles, and other people are in the room. She didn't care, because she was a woman that just did whatever she wanted. She was full of deceit and she lied, although they both lied.
Okay. At this point, I'm going to ask that you bring forth your witness. Is it for the defense or the prosecution?
It was the defense that had a witness.
Okay.
Okay, bear with me a
Probably
second.
one of the men that was in the
witness,
room.
Okay. I think the reception. Oh, we got the witness coming now. Don't look until the witness is ready. Witness, who are you?
My name is John Charles, and I'm speaking to, I've been brought here to testify on behalf of Delilah concerning her situation with a young man named Samson. Now, I have examined the background of these two, and I've also examined the pressure that was put upon Delilah, in that Samson and Delilah were in a relationship before the elders came to them. Because if you look within the word says that Samson saw her, liked her, and they were together.
Mm-hmm.
The leaders looked up and thought, here's an opportunity for us to capitalize on what this woman is doing. So let's go to her with a business deal. They went to her, so they were already a couple. It wasn't that she had to entice him to do anything. They were already together. Okay. Now, because they are together, the leadership have told me that they put her under pressure. They did tell her, yes, you are a Philistine, reminded her of her background, but we are going to sweeten the pot by actually giving you some money. Now, you'll note that having looked into the person that I'm witnessing on behalf, it doesn't say that she had a job of any sort. It's not in there. So how was she living? Do we expect her to live how? Now, somebody comes along and puts a sweetheart of a deal on the table, speaking on behalf of this woman. Well, I've got no loyalty to Samson. Samson's killed my people. People are going to give me money to carry out something, and I don't love him either. So I'm not treacherous. I am saving the life of the people. Are there any questions that anybody would like to put to me as the witness?
Prosecutor will go first.
Right. My question is, you said out of your own mouth that they were together. So if they were together, how can you tell me that Delilah was not guilty?
Guilty of what, though? She's guilty of being with. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
She was being deceitful because when the leaders came to her, and you are one of the leaders, right?
Yeah.
John Charles, you were there. So they asked her to trick the man, use her womanly wiles.
Nope.
So at the end of the day, they were together. So yes, she didn't love Samson like Samson loved her, but just because of that, do you have to kill a man, let them gorge out his eyes, just because you want the 1,100 pieces of silver?
Well, to be fair to Delilah, Delilah did not know that we were going to gouge out his eyes. She didn't know that. She was not a party to that. She didn't know that we would have taken that step. So,
okay, so you want to know what his strength was. You want to capture him, and you're going to tell me that Delilah didn't think what they're going to do when they capture him. The woman is deceitful. She knew that the man would probably end up dead because she was the enemy of the Philistines. So my learned friend, John Charles, you knew exactly what the Philistines were going to do with that man.
I, as a leader, can say that we did not tell Delilah that we were going to gouge out his eyes or anything of that ilk. The gouging out of his eyes was something that happened on the hoof. Yes, of course, I completely and utterly accept that Delilah did have us hiding in the house, and we hid in the house 4 times. In fact, after the 3rd time, we were getting a little bit fed up because we didn't understand that Samson had more brawn than brains. Surely he must have twigged that something was going on when each time that he told her a lie, we jumped out. Is this man really that silly? We're wondering, even us, we've got to say that we were quite stunned that he would fall for her womanly charms so many times. Right. Delilah, the credit to the Philistine tribe.
And I'm going to again ask if is anyone got any questions to ask? I see Sister Angelica has raised her hand, though we can't see her. Ask away.
Okay. In response to the defense that indicated that Delilah did not know what would have happened, I am providing evidence that Delilah knew. In verse 5 of the story, it says that when the Philistines came to her, they said that they wanted to know where his strength lied and by what means we may prevail against him, that we may bind him and afflict him. And she, as a part of the Philistine clan, would have known the kind of ways that they do or they attack their enemies. So, gouging of his eyes, I am seeing that not as a case to be looked at, but rather that she knew that this clan would be afflicting this man.
Yes.
Not only that, the fact that they gave her the bribe or they offered her the bribe and she moved on with that tells me that she accepted the offer of the bribery. She became a temptress.
Yeah.
Because she continued by tell me I pray thee. And this is why she did not stop until she actually got, because she had a premeditated idea like of getting her money. And she continued through. We spoke about the treachery already. Somebody's asking if this man could be so weak. Mankind are designed to love and to give their all and to trust. He trusted this woman because he loved her. In light of that, she betrayed his trust. And even though, because of his wisdom, he did not tell her where his strength lied at the first go, but because of his love and he trusted her. I am not saying that he wasn't weak, but he trusted her, and hence he gave her the secret, and she delivered him over to the attack or to the Philistines. So I'm saying that she is guilty of all those things.
We're not pronouncing guilty or innocent yet. We're putting forward all the arguments. Faith,
no.
I know you had a point to make as well. You had your hand raised.
Yes, the character of Samson, you see. Remember, I've just read it, though I can't still remember what verse it is. When Samson was married to her, he went away and had a skirmish with her people. And when he realized what the situation was, he just walked away and he didn't say anything to her. So she thought, you know, he dumped her. So that in itself might have made her begin to feel bitter in her heart. Because he left her. He left her to the point where the father thought that Samson didn't want her anymore and gave her to somebody else, to be married to somebody else. And that was a heck of a thing to be happening to a woman, any woman at any time. So, you know, I know I would feel like very angry, let's put it that way. If he didn't talk to me about the situation that went on, he just went off, left me, then of course, I had no say in the matter because my father had given me to you. And then, because he's not there, my father gave me to somebody else, passed me around as if I was a parcel. That would give me all kind of psychological disarrangement in my head that I am of no value. So if I'm of no value, I'm going to prove to them what I can do.
Okay, we're not talking about Timnah, the wife.
I know, but
but it's the father that gave her away. But then because he wanted to then try and trap Samson, he said, okay, then you can have her sister, my other daughter, instead. So it was a father that really didn't want Timnah to stay married to Samson. That is why he gave his daughter away to one of her companions, his friends. So that's Timnah. But what I'm saying is that, taking it back to Delilah, she is guilty because she was ruthless. She knew exactly what they were going to do. So regardless of all of that, the man loved you and you still went ahead, got him bound. You had all those men in the room. You didn't care what was happening. She didn't have a conscience. So I say that she is guilty because of her immoral acts, which she did with Samson. Although Samson was morally wrong himself, that still doesn't mean that he should be bound and killed.
Right, at this point, we've got a number of people that we would like to hear from, who, before we start to sum up, Mother Veronica, is there anything you'd like to ask or say? And then Pastor Bola, then Quinette, Samantha,
and Maxine as well, if possible.
Sorry?
And Maxine too, can I say?
Okay, yeah, so definitely, I won't forget you.
Right.
Mother Veronica, anything to say? You will need to unmute to speak. No? Oh, hello. Samantha, do you have anything to ask or say? Oh, you need to unmute.
Unmute.
Yes. Just press that button. Yes, done.
Yeah. I think, so I'm coming from the background that I have not read the scriptures.
That's fine.
But I'm coming from the position where I think, do we know Delilah's background? The way she was brought up? Whether she was abused in some way? So she only knew, so then she thought, well, the way to achieve in life is to use her beauty. It could be that she could have been at a crossroads when she was told to betray Samson. Did she want to betray him? Was she made promises? Did she think, well, she can achieve more? I think that she was at a crossroads. She did feel for him, but that she lacked judgment. And perhaps she didn't realize the extent of her betrayal. She did not realize the extent. She was not told his eyes would be gorged. I mean, what happened to him in the end? She had no knowledge. So that was withheld from her.
You see, the beauty of the courtroom is that this is just like real life. In a courtroom, all we know is what the prosecution and the defense put forward, and we have to form our conclusions from there. The only advantage we have is at this point, we're opening up the floor. So you see, you're hearing the story, you're hearing what happened, and soon you will be forming your guilty or not guilty based on whether you are satisfied those questions in your head that you've shared. So prosecution and defense, be ready in your summing to address some of those doubts. Could I welcome Pastor Bola, please? Do you have any questions? You don't have to, but it would be lovely to hear from you.
Hello, ladies. It's just amazing to be here. I don't have any question. I just enjoy being here and love what you're doing. Okay, so I'm just gonna mute myself and I'm gonna continue to enjoy the courtroom.
You are so welcome. And Quinette, I gather you're all the way from Farin, all the way from Tobago. Welcome. Do you have any questions or statements to make on the case? If you could unmute if you'd like. You say hello and any comments? Quinette? I'll move on. Charlene, hello. Lovely to see you. Welcome to you too. Do you have any comments or questions on this case of Delilah?
She just seemed sad to me and lonely that you would have this guy visiting you who says that he loves you, and if he's just coming to visit you, he's just coming for sex, but you're not bringing anything else. And for the Lords to give her $1,100, which has 5 by 1,100, that's real money. That's a lot of money. And if you're just coming for sex, that's not gonna feed my belly. And we don't know, if she had parents, bills, all the ifs, but $5,500 is a lot of money. So, and they didn't say if she loved him back. So to sell out somebody that supposedly loves you just for money makes you wonder what else was happening. So she didn't seem very happy at all.
Open-minded. You will hear the summing up and come to your conclusion. Rain, welcoming Rain. I invite you to unmute, and if you have any questions or comments.
Good evening, everyone. I am not at the place that I can reveal myself, so I'm sorry.
That's fine. I know sometimes.
So yeah. Oh, all right then. Let me just go for it. Good evening, everybody. So I don't really have anything to add. It's my first time joining you. I know Sister Bal for a number of years now, and so I thought, I looked at the time and I thought, I'll jump on and listen to what's going on. Really, really interesting, and looking forward to the summing up and what Delilah's fate will be.
Welcome, Rain, welcome. Charm, over to you. Charm, would you like to unmute? Do you have any questions? No, that's fine. Wynne Griffiths, hello. I see you on that fabulous picture above your head. Do you have any questions? Yes, you see it? Do you have any? No, none at the moment. We're coming to the summing up. Soon we'll find out who you're going with.
I have a question.
For defense. Who's that?
Samantha.
Hello, yep.
Yeah.
Don't forget Maxine.
How old was Delilah when she met Samson?
I don't think anyone knows.
It never said.
No, it doesn't say in the Bible.
We have no age.
No age, no.
All we know is she must have been at her most appealing.
Because because I'm thinking in those times a woman, a girl was seen as a woman at a younger age, not in her 20s or 18. So that's why I'm concerned that, in those times, girls were married off or were able to have relations at an early age. So that's what I'm, I don't.
Oh, I can see where you're coming from. Yes.
You think she had issues?
Sorry?
You thought she had issues?
Issues,
yes. But I'm thinking, because in those times, girls were active at a very early age because it was the norm. They were married very early. So that's why I'm concerned about the age of Delilah anyway. Because I'm wondering, what was her education? Did she...
was a woman.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so the age has to be taken into account because she would not, at that age, there's no way they would wait until they're 18 to be perceived as an adult. So, but that's where I'm coming from anyway.
Okay, we have to assume for the purposes of the court that she's old enough for trial. I'm going to ask Maxine, because Maxine's been waiting patiently, and then back to the defender.
Yeah, so I just really wanted to add to that about the vulnerability of women at the time and the influence, the lack of influence that they had at that time. And if you were approached by leaders of the Philistines and told to do something, how much power do you have to be able to say no? So, there may be instances where you might have been attracted to Samson or not, but women didn't have, there was a lot of power disparities between men and women. And so I just feel that she was a vulnerable woman. And I also think that Samson, again, also to take responsibility for his actions, because many times, 3 times, he had evidence to show that there was something not right with her pestering, with her questioning. Each time that he questioned him, and then the Philistines came on him and he broke free. That is evidence. I think Samson was blind before his eyes was gouged out. You know, blind by his oral, blind.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Maxine.
All right.
Maxine. Oh, yes.
Very valid point.
At this point,
Challenge point.
yes, well done.
Maxine, I like it. I like it. Yeah.
Right.
Very
I
good
agree
point.
totally.
Being mindful of
Totally.
time, I'm going to invite Yvonne, Quinette, Wendy.
Denise, Charlene.
Pardon?
It's not Quinette, it's Charlene.
No.
It's Quinette.
Oh, is it?
If any of you, Sister Angelica, I see your hand is raised too. Would any of you who have your cameras off like to raise a point? And indeed, Yvonne, I see the top of your head. Is there anything you'd like to say? Because we're moving very close to summing up. Any of you? That's fine if you're satisfied with that your questions are being addressed. Sister Angelica, I'll come to you too, Sister Beryl. You can raise your point.
Okay,
please, yeah?
yes, I'm agreeing that knowing more of the background of Delilah would help us to better understand or to understand a different perspective. I also looked to see if I found an age for her based on
The
question, but I'm only seeing where Samson was 18 when he actually fell in love with Delilah. But based on the experience that Delilah showed in love, based on the experience that Delilah showed in lovemaking, it leaves me to wonder how old she was or how experienced she was in that kind of sexual behavior.
Younger.
Yeah. And the sister who also mentioned that he was blind before his eyes were gouged out. I would agree because I believe that he was really in love, and love is blind.
True.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I've been asked to call on Sister Quinette again. Sister Quinette, are you there? No. Are you there? You would need to unmute, please. Right. We'll move towards summing up. Could I come over to you because Pastor Beryl, you have been asking, your hand has been raised for some time. So do we go to summing up, which would be prosecution then defense, or defender, would you like to say something first? Or do you want to wait to
no,
summing up?
The thing that, which is a really great point here, and this is the defender speaking from the point of a mother, is that we have our children at home. We grow our children in a particular way. We teach them, this is how we want you to behave yourself. That when you go out on the street, we will not be embarrassed. That we've brought our children, the majority of us, in the fear of the Lord. But they go outside on the road and they come across other situations, and all of a sudden, everything that we have installed, taught them, led them, goes right out of their head. The point that I'm making is that's not the fault of the person that they come across. It's the fault of the person who got involved in things that they were not called to. My colleague, I would like my learned colleague to give me another example in the Bible where the Philistines had gouged out anyone's eyes. If you can come up with another, I'll be generous. Give me another example of where the Philistines had gouged out somebody's eyes. Then I will accept the point that there's a possibility. But my client could not know, because the gouging out of eyes is not recorded anywhere else within the Bible.
Right.
So to my
Anybody
colleagues, my
else?
learned
Look, the
feel
police
free,
are
and then I
coming. Are they coming
Yeah, that's
past the
right.
courtroom or are they taking her to prison? We now need to move to the summing up because of time. So we usually go prosecutor first and then defender. Prosecutor, over to you.
Right. Over to me. Right. All I'm saying is that morally what she did was wrong. We all know that. And Delilah was not concerned about the weakness of Samson, but his strength. Once a man betrays his strength, he has no reserve. And Samson had no reserve. And what happened was Delilah used that, her cunning ways, and she knew that she was going to get money. Yes, she might not have known that it was going to gorge out his eyes, but I put it to the jury that if somebody's going to be bound and taken away by the Philistines, they're not going to have a tea party with him. You know that they must going to be killing him because, like my learned friend had said, he was an enemy of the Philistines. So if you're an enemy of the Philistines, Delilah must have known that that man would die. So she's guilty of deceiving. She's guilty of taking the money and bribing him. And she was a Philistine. She didn't have to do it. Yes, I hear what some of you in the jury have said, that the leaders came and that they told her to do it and it might have been difficult. But the two of them were together before and she never had no thought for the man. So I believe morally she is wrong in what she did, and that you've got to find her guilty today for that man's life. That's my summing up.
Thank you. Over to you, defender.
Okay. So my client is a beautiful woman. She's clever. Just because you're beautiful and you're clever does not make you bad. She was dealing with a man who, yes, was morally weak, and he was weaker morally. He was morally weaker than she. She was loyal to her people. And this is a key point that I want to make here. She had no moral obligation to be loyal to Nazarenes. She has no obligation to them because she ain't part of their tribe. She's got no moral obligation to Samson. She was paid to do a job. This shows that she's a good product manager because she completed the task. She receives her pay, no different to you who get paid for doing your job. There is no other evidence of anybody else's eyes being gouged out. The interesting thing with her is that she was not interfering with him. He was the one who saw her. And because he had been brought up in a strict way, should have known better. If you play with fire, you are going to get burned. So in my final part of summing up, she was not disloyal to Samson. She had no loyalty to him. She was loyal to her people. She didn't betray her people. She completed her task, received her money. And the final nonsense bit that is often spoken that says that she died when Samson collapsed the temple, it's not true. It's not true. There is no evidence to support that she died when the temple came down. The thing that we must remember is that in Samson dying, he killed over 3,000 people. He killed more people in his death than he did while he was alive.
Yeah.
So my client is not guilty of betrayal or disloyalty to the Nazarenes. I rest my case.
Thank you so much. Now, you the courtroom visitors will now become the jury. And I don't know if you can choose to regard or disregard the stone throwing from Sister Angelica that you will see in the chat. But it is there for you to decide But before you do declare guilty or not guilty, is there anything you want to say to the rest of the jury? Because what we'll do, after you've raised any points, we'll have a show of hands. Well, show of hands. We will have a clap if they're guilty or a thumbs up if they're not guilty. Not yet, though. Okay, not yet. Does anyone have any comment to make? Anything you want to influence your fellow jury? Because it's easier the more of you agree. Let's take into account the facts of the case and the arguments put forward by the prosecution and defender. I will also say that many of you had questions and points to put forward that were like, what if questions? Now, if you were in a jury in London or Aylesbury or wherever, those are the same questions you'd have, but you'd still have to say guilty or not guilty because of the skill of the prosecution and the defense. So have a think about that. I see, Sister Angelica, your hand is raised. So what would you like to say to the jury?
Just a question. Sorry. Just a question. I'm just wondering if I heard in the conclusive statement of the defender that indicated that Delilah wasn't disloyal to the Philistines. That's the clause, disloyal to the Philistines. I was just wondering if disloyalty in the case would have been disloyal to Samson as opposed to the Philistines. I'm not sure. Is it disloyalty to the Philistines that was argued or disloyalty to Samson?
Philistines, isn't it?
It was the Philistines.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Could I just ask the prosecutor a question?
Yeah.
Could you please state once more what was the charges against Delilah?
Right. Is she guilty or not guilty of all charges?
Is it okay to
state your case?
repeat the charges, please?
Right. The charges I've got against Delilah is she was persistent, she was devilish, she was deceitful, she used her personal charms, her mental ability. Yes, and she was know exactly what she was doing. Delilah used all her qualities for her purpose, sex and money, and she lied to Samson. I believe that she lied to Samson because she pretended as if she loved him, and she didn't. And she used and then also she knew, like we said in chapter 16, verse 5, that the rulers had said to entice him because they wanted to bind him, and she knew that he was an enemy and that he would have been killed. So she was using that money, knowing that that man would die. So that's why I said she's guilty.
I see.
So we're really looking at, was she an evil manipulator or was she a loyal Philistine? Okay, prosecution and defense, would you in a sentence sum that up as that? Guilty, she's a scheming, wickedly womanly wild woman. Not guilty, she's a loyal Philistine doing as she was paid to do.
Yes.
Do you feel ready to raise do you feel ready to have a clap hand for a guilty and a thumbs up for a not guilty? Shall we now see what the floor decides? Guilty or not guilty?
Could you please repeat, Sister Venice?
Okay.
The guilty or not guilty?
Guilty is a clap.
Oh.
And not guilty is a thumbs up. Okay. I'll ask you first of all just to put a clap up if you think she's guilty. Right, let me just count the guilties. Oh yeah, I'm counting. Yep, one. Any more guilty?
Clap is for guilty.
Clap is for guilty. I've got Sister Wynne, 1, 2. I know you, Sister Angelica. I know already. I know already. So, and now, let's see how many of you think she's not guilty. Not guilty.
Oh, where am I?
So far, it's equal. Not guilty. Right, can we do that again? In fact, I'm going to ask you to, where I can see you, raise your hand. Guilty, raise your hand. Raise your hand if she's guilty. 2, 3. Now, please raise your hand if she's not guilty. Not guilty. 2. Not guilty, Sister Charlene, is she guilty or not guilty? Oh. Are you abstaining, Sister Charlene? Are you abstaining after all that effort? Oh, and you're not guilty as well, Pastor Bola. And Sister, do you know what? I came here with a different. Judge has got to say what she sees.
Go on, Judge, sum up.
Has to sum up. Judge has to say today, and Sister Rain has raised her hand for not guilty. So I'm going to have to say that based on the presentations given, the research done in advance, that Delilah has been declared not guilty.
Quite
She
right.
Go home.
Quite right.
Well, I must say, when we were agreeing to look at Delilah, my question was, does that woman have a good bone in her body? And she today has just been found not guilty.
Yes.
We have a few abstentions, but pretty overwhelming. Sister Rain, your hand is up as well. Did you want to say something? Did you want to unmute? Yes. Hello.
I was going to say that miscarriages of justice can also happen.
That's right.
I'm asking for a retrial.
Angelica wants a retrial.
And my reason for a retrial is because some questions were asked and the research wasn't done. There was a question that asked about proof to me that eyes were gorged. Yes? Otherwise. I saw somebody wrote in the chat, and I have not really seen the background, in 2 Kings 25 and verse 7, where eyes were out as well. Somebody's eyes were put out. So I think based on some of the questions that were forward and were not
after Delilah.
Can I say something?
Just one moment, if I could take, thank you, Sister Angelica, that's a good point to make. You can always go away and research more, but when 2 Kings was brought up, the defender straight away said it was after the time, and we would also have to look to see, was it the Philistines that did that? But I'll also ask you, Pastor Bola, if you wanted to raise a point? I'll come back.
Yes. This is just amazing what you're doing here. It's wonderful. I've enjoyed it. But I would have, voted otherwise. But in reflection from what the defender and the prosecuting counsel, what they've, put forward, I've had a change of mind in the sense that Delilah couldn't be guilty. Because when a man decides to marry a woman, you know the kind of woman you're marrying. Samson knew the kind of woman Delilah was.
Yes. Sister Angelica, sing that song again.
When a man loves a woman.
Yes.
Yes. And the point is, the trial is not on Samson, it is on Delilah.
Pastor Bola, thank you. Good point.
Retrial.
Oh, sore loser. Sister Angie's a sore loser. So everybody, thank you so much for this experience. I'm going to ask you, Pastor B.
Yeah, I'm not in my defender role at the moment, but when we have these sessions, these sessions are about us learning and researching and actually growing and recognizing
understanding the Bible.
And how different situations can happen around us.
Yeah.
Now, if I was on the other side and I was going to prosecute Delilah, I'd have gone for her slightly differently. But I'm just showing you how much that as children of God, if we get involved with things that God has not called us to, there is danger for us.
Excuse me?
Yes.
If we as children step away from the things that God has put within us, there is danger for us. So we've got to definitely try and keep ourselves abiding under the shadow of the Almighty, so that we can look at people like Samson and recognize that, Samson, you made some terrible, terrible mistakes. You really did. You did some things that you stepped out of the covenant that had been made over your life. And once you step out of the will of God for your life, anything can happen to you. So I'm not saying that.
I have to disagree with you there. I have to disagree with you there. He did not step out. He was being exactly what he was created to be. Straight, it was not a straight road, straight down there to destroy the Philistines. But that was God's intention. And the way he went about it, he had super talent in so many ways, including he was a bit arrogant. I have to see, you know, I tell him, walk away, you're just too arrogant for me, in his behavior. But it was God's plan all along. All that went through, everybody played their part to fulfill what God had intended from the beginning, even before he was born.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but the point that I'm making is that I don't want anyone to go away and think that I think that what Delilah did was completely and utterly right. What I'm saying to you is that what we should learn from is that where God has called us into a particular activity, ministry, whatever purpose God has called us into, we do need to keep ourselves focused on that which he has called us to. And not allow ourselves to turning into side roads and dead ends where we allow other people to turn us from our, so that, as it says in Psalms 91, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High. You, Samson, had a secret. You needed to keep that secret so that the shadow, you shall abide under the shadow. Sometimes we get caught up in things that we shouldn't do. That's all I'm saying. That's all.
Yeah. And what I've got to say about that as well is that not speaking as a prosecutor, is that what Pastor B is saying is correct. Sometimes we do get caught up. Sometimes we know we've got habits that we need to break, but we do not break them. But God still forgave Samson in the end when he asked.
Yes, he did. Yes, when he asked for the strength.
And that's why we've got to go to God. But we've got to remember that none of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. And at the end of the day, what if we've got any habits or things that we know, we've got to take it to the Lord so that we can ask for deliverance. But some people, they get so caught up with themselves that they do not even know that they've got the sin of pride or the sin of lying or the sin of doing this, the sin of doing that. What we're saying is, although we looked at these two people today, there is things in there that was good and there was things in there that was bad. But we have got to look within ourselves.
Thank you. Prosecutor Defense, you did a fantastic job, both of you. Thank you so much. Tremendous. If we could now close in prayer, please, Sister Val, if you take us to close. Wonderful. If you could unmute, Sister Val. Preston Sinton. Are you able to unmute? No, I can't hear you. You're still muted. You're still muted.
Send her a chat.
Yeah. Okay.
Or we could get Pastor Bowler to.
It's all right. We'll move it to someone else. Beverly, would you close us in prayer, please? Beverly H. Sister Beverly.
Okay, all right, we'll do. I'm not very good at this, but we'll do.
That's all right.
Okay, Father Lord, we thank you that we were all able to meet together here. And also, we thank you for helping us to understand and to put through our points, listen to one another. We give you thanks, Lord, for all the love that you give to us. We give you thanks, as I'm going to repeat myself again, for this session, which has been so good.
Amen.
And I'm sure that among it all, from it all, we have learned something about ourselves. We've also learned a little bit more about the Bible, and we give you thanks, Father Lord. As we go our separate ways, and by this I mean in our homes, keep us safe through the night and bring us safely through to the morning. For our friends from Tobago and Trinidad, God bless you all, and hopefully you will join us again in another one of our sessions. So until we meet again, God be with you all as we give him thanks and praise for everything that he does for us, and he will continue to do for us as we give him our love, our thanks, and our worship. In the name of his Son, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you all for your fantastic company. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.